And welcome back to the Hot Night, where we are talking the best Ferrari drivers in Formula One, a team synonymous. You think F1, you think Ferrari, you think red car, you think Ferrari. Yeah, I mean, we're talking about the most successful team in Formula One. Let's give you a few stats. Out of their 75 years, they've won 16 World Championships. They've had 245 wins out of 1,089 race starts. In terms of podiums, 816. Poles, 251. I mean, 558 front row starts. 262 fastest laps. 259 races led. In terms of points, now I appreciate it's a bit weird with points because they are very different now to they were at the beginning of Formula One and throughout history, but 9,718 points and 93 full front row lockouts. I mean, that's brilliant. Laps led, 7,599. Retirements, yeah, try not to talk about that too much. 655. I mean, yeah, that is quite a lot. But here, we want to talk about Ferrari's best ever drivers. From your Fernando Alonso to your Michael Schumachers to your Niki Lauda to your Alberto Ascaris to your Kimi Raikkonens to the Gilles Villeneuve, Mike Hawthorne as well, another one. I mean, then there is a massive list. Alain Prost, Nigel Mansell. Who is it? Well, you ask and you shall no doubt receive, because let's start off, shall we? And let's start off with this guy here, number 3, Alberto Ascari. Yep, Ferrari's, I believe, his first, Ferrari's first world champion. The years he was around was from 1950 to 1953, although there was a one-off, I think. He raced one-off in 1954, but when we look at his stats, he won 2 championships. In terms of races, 27 races for Ferrari, 27. In terms of wins, 13. Podium 17, poles 13. Now, when you look at his win ratio to his wins to the amount of races, nearly half the races he drove for in Ferrari was a win. I mean, this guy is absolutely brilliant. He was, as I said, Ferrari's first world champion. But when you look at his rivals he had, his chief rival was a certain Juan Manuel Fangio, so that is absolutely no mean feat, and that was in the first half of the 1950s. He was also important in Enzo Ferrari's early days as a constructor, impressing in the 1940 mile Milliga. That's way before Formula One, about 10 years before Formula One. He also impressed himself at the GP level with Maseratis, once again before the official start of the F1 World Championship in 1948. He ended up signing for Ferrari, and he ended up winning as well. Obviously, those 2 world titles in 52 and 53. So we know how hard it is to become a double world champion consecutively in those days, and it was Alberto Ascari that was your double world champion right near the beginning of Formula One, when, let's not forget, it was really unsafe to drive. The cars were unreliable. You didn't have seatbelts. Why didn't you have seatbelts in those days? Because you'd much rather be thrown from the wreck, because you were driving almost, like a petrol bomb, essentially, if you ended up having a whoops-a-daisy accident. So absolutely brilliant. Alberto Ascari fully deserves that number 3 spot. Who is next, though, I hear you ask? Well, it is this guy. This guy, I don't think, needs any introduction. He is a legend. You may have seen the recreation of at least part of his life on film. It is none other than Niki Lauda, known by James Hunt as Ratty, or the Rat, because of his looks. Obviously, that was prior to the horrible incident that happened at the Nürburgring. But Niki Lauda is number 2. Now, when we look at Niki Lauda's stats, they are, equally impressive. Yes, 2 championships for Ferrari. We'll get into when. 57 races, 13 wins, 32 podiums, 23 poles. But why did we put Niki Lauda ahead of Alberto Ascari? Well, I mean, once again, we've got to go back to Rush. Now, before we get into that, in terms of his Ferrari years, 1974 to 1977 in terms of his starts, 57 Ferrari starts, 15 wins, and those 2 world titles, obviously, they came in 1975 and 1977. And, well, let's just have a look at those stats there to remind you. So those 2 world championships, 15, 32, 23, massively impressive there for Niki Lauda. I mean, fantastic. So He was also, let's not forget, the first German speaker to help turn Ferrari into a dominant power. There is another one. Maybe we'll talk about him, maybe we won't. But he joined in 1974, and he and what was the 312 B3 with that season's really, really good combination. He took 9 poles, but as we know, retirements of Ferrari, sadly, especially in the early years, go hand in hand, just after John Lacey and Gerhard Berger. And he finished behind teammate Clay Regazzoni in the standings. However, he formed a strong manager with the then team manager, a certain former Ferrari president, Luca de Montezemolo. And he marched to 5 wins and the 1975 title. And that was, funny enough, their first Constructors' crown since 1964. We don't really need to talk about the 1976 season because we know that was very much James Hunt. But the most significant thing in Lauda's Formula 1 career happened when he had that absolutely horrendous crash at the Nürburgring, and he fought for his life to the point where the priest had turned up to give him his last rites, and Niki Lauda told him in the most Niki Lauda way possible to where to go. Yes, James Hunt ended up winning that season, but wasn't it amazing? We had 3 Ferraris appearing at Monza. One of them was Lauda. Now, Ferrari, if you believe the news reports at the time, they were already like, yeah, we're going to replace you, Niki Lauda. I'm so sorry, you're injured, you're not going to be as good, etc. But he did make a heroic comeback at that Italian Grand Prix, having missed a couple of rounds. Nevertheless, that was a legendary showing, and he showed he still had it. But then fast forward to the Japanese Grand Prix at Fuji, delayed by raining conditions. One of the bravest men in Formula 1, he'd fought off death. He said, no, my life is not worth this. And the conditions were appalling, and he retired, which I think was was a really, really brave decision. But sadly, Lauda's relationship with Ferrari was never really the same after that Nürburgring crash. But he did make his point in 1977. The Ferrari was the 4th fastest car that season, but it was more reliable this time than the chief oppositions of Lauda, and his experience with the car and racing made it enough to clinch that title. But yeah, he could have won more. He did win more championships. He won it with McLaren as well. But in terms of Ferrari, I think one of the best drivers. When you look at what he went through as well, you can make a very good argument that this man is one of the best drivers of all time, bar none. But pray tell, who is our best Ferrari driver of all time so far in 2024? It is this guy here. I mean, would it have been anyone else? From 1996 to 2006, absolutely amazing. I mean, let's have a quick look at his stats, shall we? 180 races, 5 World Championships, 72 wins, 116 podiums, and 58 poles. Statistically, one of the most successful drivers ever. In terms of championships, he's won 7 in total. 5 of them were for Ferrari, the most for that, for that particular constructor. The only person to eclipse him is Hamilton, winning, I think, 1 more World Championship with Mercedes. But could it have been anyone else? He was integral to Ferrari. When you think Ferrari, modern Ferrari at least, you do think Michael Schumacher, along with Jean Todt, Ross Brawn, Rory Byrne. This was a super team that dominated Formula 1 basically from 2000 to 2004, to the point where the FIA had to change the tyre rules in 2005 and kind of screwed over Ferrari in a way. But then Ferrari were back fighting for the title in 2006. Had it not been for a bit of reliability in Japan, the penultimate race probably would have won the title. And at the time, remember, Schumacher was already a double world champion when he came to Ferrari. Things were tough at first, though, in 1996. It was a really uncompetitive car. But Michael Schumacher was so good in that Ferrari. When he tested the 1995 Ferrari that both John Lacey and Gerhard Berger had, he instantly went about a second faster at their test track, to the point where the Ferrari team were even thinking, oh my gosh, this guy may have been able to win the championship in our 95 Ferrari. And let's be fair, one of the most beautiful Ferraris of all time, bar none. But as I said, things were tough at first in 1996. That car was not good at all. He won the Spanish Grand Prix in the wet in that amazing race in 1996. But forward to 1997, yes, we had that whoopsie-daisy with Jack Villeneuve in a car that probably wasn't good enough to win the World Championship. So he was doing absolutely gangbusters there, to the point where Jack Villeneuve was doing his best to throw away the Williams Championship. But there we go, forward to 98 and 99. Well, Mika Hakkinen won in 98. Again, the Ferrari wasn't good enough. Very much the second best car. Until towards the end of the season, it was a bit more even. 99, we know he ended up, sadly, breaking his leg. Would he have won that championship? Well, once again, it wasn't Villeneuve this time. It was Hakkinen and McLaren doing their best to throw away that World Championship. But then we had an absolute run of success in 2000 with Rubens Barrichello replacing Eddie Irvine in 2000. We had Schumacher, he reeled off 5 consecutive titles between, from 2000, 2001, 2002, 2003 and 2004. The most dominant we'd seen Ferrari were in 2002 and 2004. It was absolutely amazing. He ended his tenure retiring, arguably maybe being press ganged into retiring to be replaced by Kimi Räikkönen in 2007. I'm convinced he definitely would have won in 2007 as well. He was still up there. He was still good enough. But that is Michael Schumacher. Let's just have a quick look at his stats. Absolutely brilliant. 180 races for Ferrari, 72 wins for Ferrari. Absolutely fantastic. So let's then just recap our top three drivers for Ferrari. We've got Alberto Ascari in at number 3. Up the Ferrari's first world champion, winning 2 championships, 27 races, 13 wins, 17 podiums, and 13 pole position. An absolute legend, but arguably more of a legend. The man that escaped death, faced death in the very face, and said, "No, I am Niki Lauda. I'm going on to win." In 2 championships for Ferrari before and after that fiery crash at the Nürburgring. 57 races, 15 wins, 32 podiums and 23 poles, but arguably the greatest driver of all time, maybe. Very much the greatest driver for Ferrari, I think, beyond a lot of doubt, potentially, for Ferrari fans, Michael Schumacher. And yes, 5 world championships for Ferrari, record for Ferrari, 180 races, 72 wins, 116 podiums and 58 pole positions. Michael Schumacher, you are the best Ferrari driver ever. So if you liked what you see, please give us a subscribe. That would be absolutely great. Hit that notification button so you do not miss a video. And no doubt we will speak to you, well, I guess soon, maybe? Yeah.